Chosen one, listen carefully. You've stepped into a season where what was once hidden has started to collapse in plain sight. They tried to hold their world together with calendars, schedules, and carefully plotted days, but time itself has turned against them. What once looked like an empire of order has become a countdown to exposure. And here's the reality check. If it walks like chaos and talks like chaos, it's not order, it's collapse. Like, subscribe, and share to seal this word into your timeline. Comment, I choose peace over chaos. See you in the next one. Blessings. Their downfall doesn't begin in the courtroom. It begins in the confusion of their own days. Meetings once filled with confidence now get canceled with flimsy excuses. Calls are delayed. Messages pile up unanswered. The very minutes they used to weaponize against others have become their torment. Every tick of the clock mocks them, reminding them that time is no longer an ally but a witness. They once treated schedules like tools of domination. Arrivals planned to intimidate, exits staged to inspire envy. But those days are gone. They live in countdowns, days to the next hearing, hours until another headline drops, minutes before another piece of evidence surfaces. The calendar that once represented control now carries red circles that choke them. Appointments aren't milestones of achievement anymore. They're deadlines of exposure. They try to rewrite their story in between the lines of these collapsing schedules. But the pen shakes, the ink blots, and even their handwriting feels foreign. Every date that passes is a page turned in a book they can no longer edit. And you, chosen one, you felt the shift. You can sense it when days feel heavy with anticipation, when the air itself seems charged with the sound of unraveling. You no longer chase time because you understand something. They don't. Destiny isn't bound by their calendars. While they struggle to stitch together hours that refuse to obey, you walk in a rhythm beyond clocks and contracts. You rise steady while they stumble, because your alignment isn't with deadlines, but with eternity. Their collapse is loud, but your ascent is quiet, steady, inevitable. Look closer and you'll see it. The appointments they once flaunted have become their shackles. The calendar has flipped from being a showcase of power to a ledger of exposure. They dread Mondays, fear Fridays, and sleep through Sundays. Their days blur, not because of freedom, but because consequence erases their sense of control. And in the blur, they finally realize what you always knew, that no one escapes the accounting of time. Justice may not rush, but it never forgets. Each square on the calendar is marked, not by their pen, but by destiny's hand. Chosen one, this is your reminder. You are not bound to their frantic pace. You are not enslaved to deadlines forged in fear. You are aligned with something greater than schedules, heaven's timing. And that timing cannot be manipulated, bought, or delayed. While their world collapses day by day, yours expands moment by moment, written not in ink that fades, but in eternal script. This is the season where the very structure they trusted betrays them, and the very flow you trusted lifts you. What imprisons them frees you, and what collapses around them crowns you. They thought ink was just decoration, a flourish to seal their advantage, a tool to turn words into weapons and signatures into shields. For years, they trusted paper as an accomplice, believing contracts, receipts, and sealed agreements would always bend in their favor. But paper has a memory, and ink has weight. What they once believed was silent compliance is now shouting louder than their denials. Those stamped pages are no longer extensions of their control. They've become evidence, fossils of choices they can no longer undo. Each document they signed carries the vibration of intent. Every clause they twisted now lies flat in black and white, no longer able to hide behind charm or excuses. They built empires on dotted lines, but those dots now connect into patterns of corruption, forming maps prosecutors can follow with ruthless precision. They once shredded, burned, and buried files, but the spirit of those documents outlived the flames. Copies resurface, ledgers reappear, digital backups awaken like ghosts summoned to testify. There is irony here. The very contracts they waved around as proof of victory are the same contracts that betray them. The same letters they forced others to sign in fear are now being read in front of courts, revealing not strength, but coercion. Every clause meant to corner someone else is now a cage around their own neck. They used ink to enslave others, and now ink enslaves them. Chosen one, you already sensed this long ago. You knew lies never truly disappear, that words written in the shadows always find the light. They believed signatures were weapons, but they are chains. The very contracts they flaunted as proof of superiority are indictments in disguise. Every stamp they pressed down with pride has become a bruise on their own record. Paper, once pliable in their hands, has turned rigid, unyielding, immune to intimidation. Now they sit in rooms where evidence is stacked in neat piles, each folder a mirror of their past decisions. Investigators slide sheets across tables, and the sound of paper against wood is more terrifying than any gavel strike. There's no music here, no applause, just the rustle of truth in motion. Pages whisper louder than speeches, and every paragraph drips with consequence. Their lawyers try to argue interpretation, but the ink doesn't waver. Ink does not forget. The archives themselves become adversaries. Libraries of transactions, vaults of contracts, databases of signatures, all once symbols of their control, now gather like armies of paper standing against them. What they once believed could be filed away has now been filed against them. Every red stamp becomes a flare of exposure. Every notary mark becomes a nail in the coffin of their credibility. The bureaucracy they weaponized has turned traitor. Meanwhile, you walk free of these chains. Your story isn't written in contracts drafted to exploit, but in promises aligned with eternity. You know the difference between paper meant to enslave and scrolls meant to liberate. They trusted ink as camouflage. You trust truth as your covering. And in this season, the difference is being exposed for all to see. Their downfall is etched into archives, while your rise is written into destiny. They can shred, burn, or deny. But stamped ink remains the testimony that cannot be silenced. And so the weight of stamped ink presses down on them like gravity, undeniable, inescapable. While they collapse under the records of their own hands, you ascend, carried by the assurance that nothing written against you can stand. Their paper is proof of their chains. Your word is proof of your freedom. And no court, no critic, no accuser can erase that contrast. They once believed machines were loyal servants. Servers, codes, and encrypted vaults, they treated technology like a fortress no storm could penetrate. Their empire ran on passwords and programs, as if digits and firewalls were divine shields. But now the fortress is collapsing from within. The very systems they designed to hide their tracks are spitting out truth like sparks from broken wires. Their logins betray them, their devices record against them. Their own machinery has turned hostile. It begins subtly in error code here, a corrupted file there, but soon the glitches align into patterns. Files they thought deleted reappear in archives. Emails believed erased or recovered from backups. Hidden transfers, offshore accounts, and encrypted messages resurface like bones rising from shallow graves. The cloud they trusted to protect now rains evidence upon them. Machines do not forget, and when summoned by investigators, they obey. Hard drives hum like choirs of judgment. They used to laugh at the idea of accountability. They mocked the old ways, paper trails, handwritten notes believing technology placed them beyond reach. But machines are impartial witnesses. The same systems they used to monitor others are now monitoring them. Their keystrokes have timestamps. Their phone calls echo in data logs. Even their silence is documented by absence, a gap that exposes more than words ever could. And then comes the avalanche. The CCTV they once demanded to watch employees now replays their own misconduct. The financial software that calculated their profits now spits out red alerts, tracing fraudulent trails they thought invisible. The artificial intelligence tools they purchased to track others' patterns have turned their gaze inward, flagging anomalies that spell out guilt in binary code. What was once an empire of innovation has become an archive of exposure. Chosen one, you've always known power built on manipulation eventually collapses under its own weight. They trusted code more than conscience. But conscience speaks through code too. Algorithms now map their schemes with forensic clarity. Patterns emerge, recurring numbers, repeated usernames, duplicate transactions. What they thought was clever design is now a fingerprint burned into digital stone. They cannot scrub it away. The system testifies without fear, without bias, without mercy. And this is the irony: they built networks to control others, but those networks now rise as witnesses against them. Surveillance cameras they once installed capture their own missteps. Software they license becomes the very key prosecutors use to unlock secrets. Passwords they boasted of crafting now crack open like fragile shells. Even their private messages betray them, resurrected from servers they assumed loyal. What was once their shield is now their snare. Technology is not sentimental. It bows to truth, not pride. Meanwhile, you, chosen one, walk with a covering they cannot hack. Your protection doesn't rely on firewalls or encrypted codes. It rests in alignment with higher order. You are not afraid of exposure because you live transparent. Your records do not tremble when searched. Your light does not flicker when examined. Their empire of machines has betrayed them, but you walk freely, untouched, because your foundation isn't built on systems that can turn hostile. It's built on eternity that never malfunctions. In the end, the machinery roars louder than any critic. Fans whir, screens flicker, servers hum with relentless truth. And as their systems betray them, one fact becomes clear: the same wires they use to trap others have tangled around their own feet. They stumble in webs of their own design. The fortress has become a cage. The code has become a confession, and no engineer can rewrite the outcome. They once believed their voice was their crown. Words rolled off their tongue like currency, buying influence, silencing critics, bending rooms to their will. They mastered tone, cadence, and timing, rehearsed speeches until they could convince even skeptics to bow. But now, the same voice betrays them. The tremor in their throat is louder than their arguments. The pauses between words are heavier than their explanations. Their sentences collapse under the weight of fear, and what they don't say confesses more than their crafted replies ever could. It begins when they sit under oath. A simple question, straightforward, unthreatening, meets an answer that wavers. Their throat tightens, their lips dry. They repeat themselves. They stall. The courtroom doesn't need fireworks. It listens to the cracks in their speech. Their tone, once sharpened to command respect, now dulls into hesitation. Jurors exchange glances, not because of the evidence alone, but because of the way guilt bleeds through stammering syllables. The voice has become its own witness. Chosen one, you always discerned this. You knew charisma could be staged, but sincerity cannot be faked. You listened deeper than words, you heard the current underneath. And now the world hears it too. Every stumble is a confession. Every delayed breath is a testimony. Even silence, the long gap before answering, is a signal that truth is pounding at the door of their throat. Desperate to break free, they try to cage it, but the bars rattle each time they open their mouth. Their lawyers coach them, reminding them to stay calm, to stick to the script. But panic is uncoachable. Anxiety leaks into vowels. Stress sharpens consonants into knives. Their performance unravels in real time. They once weaponized eloquence, but eloquence has abandoned them. They once silenced others with rhetoric, but rhetoric has turned mutinous. Their voice, once their greatest tool, has defected to the side of truth. And this is the strange justice of it. The courtroom doesn't need a smoking gun when the voice itself smokes under pressure. 1,000 documents can be debated, but the quiver in a tone cannot be erased from memory. People trust what they feel more than what they read, and everyone can feel the collapse of confidence in the sound of a shaking answer. The truth arrives not in grand revelation, but in the fragility of sound waves. They try to swallow fear, but fear echoes in the timbre. They attempt to sound composed, but every forced smile is punctured by a cracked syllable. Microphones magnify the slightest tremor, turning small hesitations into thunderclaps of doubt. Reporters scribble not just the words, but the way they were spoken. Clips circulate, replayed across networks, and no one remembers the sentences, only the stutter. Their empire of persuasion has fallen to the smallest betrayal, their own tongue. Meanwhile, your voice, chosen one, carries a different weight. You don't speak to manipulate, you speak to affirm. Your words are not rehearsed lies. They are living truths. When you speak, there is no tremor, because you are not trying to hide. Your tone is steady, your breath aligned with peace. Where their voice testifies against them, your voice testifies for you. That is why you can stand still while they stumble. That is why you rise while they sink. And so the tremor in their voice becomes their undoing. They cannot mask the sound of fear, the strain of guilt, the exhaustion of deception. The very gift they relied on has become a liability. They once ruled with words. Now they are ruled by them. Every question is a trap, not because of what is asked, but because of how it is answered. And no amount of rehearsal can save them from the witness inside their own throat. They thought power was eternal, that influence lived only in money, status, in the sway of their words. But the body always tells the truth. It betrays what the ego tries to hide. Power does not vanish first from the stage or the headlines, it leaks from the skin, the eyes, the posture. The collapse begins not in bank accounts, but in the trembling of hands, the stoop of shoulders, the weight pressing down on lungs that no longer draw steady breath. You can see it in their walk. Once they move with a rhythm of conquest, every step striking the ground like a declaration. Now their feet drag, knees lock, ankles wobble under the heaviness of consequence. The suit still looks expensive, but it hangs loose because stress consumes flesh faster than fire. Their spine bends, not out of humility, but because guilt has weight. They can rehearse lies, but they cannot rehearse the way blood pressure spikes under scrutiny. Their eyes, once sharp with arrogance, flicker with exhaustion. The circles beneath them grow darker each week. Reporters notice. Cameras magnify. No filter can erase the evidence of collapse. Once they boasted that sleep was for the weak. Now insomnia carves valleys under their eyes. They clutch coffee like medicine. But caffeine cannot steady a heart that pounds against ribcage bars. Their laughter has vanished. Even when they force it, the sound is hollow, punctured by wheezing. Chosen one, you recognize this stage. You've seen people try to mask decay, but the body never cooperates with deceit. It testifies without invitation. Sweat gathers at the wrong time. Voices crack when asked simple questions. Fingers fumble with papers, pens and phones. Cameras catch every twitch. The public doesn't need documents to sense downfall. They rate it in posture, in pallor, in the way even expensive cologne cannot cover the scent of fear. And then come the breakdowns. Emergency hospital visits disguised as routine checkups. Sudden fainting spells explained away as exhaustion. Panic attacks misnamed as stress management. Their health becomes a headline, not of vitality, but of fragility. Once they controlled narratives with power poses and photo shoots, now their own pulse interrupts the script. Reporters whisper, they don't look well. Audiences notice weight loss, shaky hands, uneven breathing. The empire can no longer stage manage a failing body. Meanwhile, your body, chosen one, carries a different testimony. You've walked through storms, but resilience has left you stronger, not weaker. You don't carry the twitch of guilt, but the calm of peace. Your steps are steady because they are aligned with truth. Where their shoulders sag under invisible burdens, yours rise with assurance. The contrast is visible. They collapse outwardly because they corroded inwardly. You stand tall because you were cleansed inwardly. And so the collapse of the body becomes the loudest signal yet. When power exits through the skin, no stage, no money, no spin doctor can bring it back. They once wielded their health as proof of invincibility, but now their fragility exposes the lie. The body is the final courtroom, and it has rendered its verdict. They are not who they pretended to be. Their decline is irreversible, their body confessing what their lips still refuse to admit. They once traded in loyalty like it was currency minted by their own hands. Friends, associates, employees, even family, everyone was a share in their portfolio, an asset that guaranteed the continuation of influence. But the market for loyalty is not controlled by contracts, promises, or threats. It is regulated by truth, and truth always bankrupts deceit. You watch as alliances fray. The once solid handshakes, sealed with champagne and smiles, are replaced by hesitation. Emails go unanswered. Calls are ignored. Even those paid to stay close start keeping distance, sensing instability beneath the practiced poise. Their network collapses quietly, subtly, like a stock ticker blinking red, until the once valued shares in trust are worth nothing at all. They try to prop it up, offering favors, making gestures, dangling promises of positions or profit, but people see through the veneer. They sense that the foundation is rotting. What they once called loyalty was conditional, dependent on personal gain, and now the supply has dried. Colleagues who celebrated them yesterday are gone today, shifting allegiances to safer, untainted territories. The market reacts faster than any legal maneuver, faster than any public relations spin. Chosen one. This is where your advantage becomes obvious. While they invest in others, you've invested in yourself, in inner alignment, in invisible integrity. Where they beg for allegiance, you attract resonance. Where they beg for followers, you cultivate magnetism. The collapse of their loyalty market is not sudden, it is inevitable. Energy cannot lie. The people closest to them are sensing the tremor, the instability, and they move to preserve themselves. And yet, their panic does not stop at losing allies. They try manipulation, coercion, public displays of generosity to patch the crumbling trust. But each gesture is transparent. Each public post a testament to desperation. The louder they try to convince the world that people are still loyal, the more clearly the absence of genuine trust is visible. Subtle whispers turn into conversations. Closed-door meetings yield nothing. Once powerful boards, teams, and entourages now act in self-preservation, prioritizing their own safety over loyalty to someone in decline. Meanwhile, your own loyalty market behaves differently. Your presence, actions, and alignment inspire voluntary allegiance. People do not follow you out of fear or obligation, they follow because resonance recognizes resonance. Your network does not collapse because it was never conditional. It was founded on shared vision, mutual respect, and authenticity. Where their market crashes, yours strengthens. The contrast is stark, even from a distance. This collapse of trust is a warning power that is unanchored in truth. No matter how flashy, cannot sustain alliances. Shares of loyalty cannot be printed, manipulated, or coerced. The body politic, the social ecosystem, the very energy of human interaction, it all recognizes when integrity is absent. And when it does, it divests immediately, silently, efficiently. The market may look normal from the outside, but the numbers are falling. They are not aware of it yet, but bankruptcy has already begun. You, chosen one, watch as their empire of conditional loyalty crumbles. The walls they built to surround themselves with assurance are empty. And in this, the universe is revealing a law: no deception can prop up allegiance forever. They have mastered the art of noise. Every step, every movement, every stumble comes accompanied by a justification, an alibi, a monologue crafted to convince both themselves and the world that nothing has gone wrong. Their words are countless, layered, and rehearsed, yet in this theater of noise, sound becomes their enemy. Every excuse cancels itself out. Every explanation leaves a trace of contradiction. Every defense echoes weakness instead of authority. They speak to fill silence, because silence exposes them. And silence is a mirror the universe provides that reflects without mercy. Each attempt to narrate their own story only multiplies the inconsistencies. The more they try to control perception, the more chaotic the message becomes. Phrases overlap, statements contradict, timelines warp. The audience, those who observe without bias, begin to notice the pattern: noise without coherence, speech without foundation. Chosen one, this is your stage in contrast. Where they panic, you pause. Where they justify, you act. The power of stillness is invisible to those caught in the clamor, yet it shapes reality faster than any argument they can muster. You understand that explanation is often the weapon of the unaligned, the tool of those whose truth cannot stand on its own. The universe does not need footnotes, disclaimers, or spinning narratives. Energy carries clarity. Words are only proof when aligned with integrity. Their noise is a performance, but one without applause. Colleagues exchange looks. Emails pile up unanswered. And the slightest pause in their frantic storytelling triggers more questions than their words ever answer. Allies who once believed in the carefully curated narrative now feel the friction, the cognitive dissonance. Every attempt to explain the unexplainable fractures the trust they thought was solid. What was once authority is now an endless loop of justification, spiraling toward collapse. They attempt to quantify every error, every misstep, as though arithmetic could redeem perception. Charts, reports, and lists are produced in abundance, but each only highlights the gaps between intention and reality. Noise becomes evidence of its own failure. In trying to convince the world that they are in control, they reveal the exact opposite. Their theater of noise does not hide the cracks, it illuminates them, spotlighting fragility that was always there, quietly, waiting to be exposed. Meanwhile, your approach is silent, surgical, inevitable. You do not defend, because there is nothing to defend. Your movements, your choices, your presence, they are coherent and consistent. The world observes, and resonance follows. Where they burn energy attempting to overwrite perception, you conserve it, redirecting it toward creation, toward alignment, toward unstoppable action. In their volume, you find advantage. In their panic, you find calm. The irony is stark. Every attempt to control perception backfires. Each excuse becomes evidence. Each justification becomes a highlight reel of mismanagement, misalignment, and overreach. The louder the noise, the louder the universe responds with silence, clarity, and natural correction. This is the law of resonance. Actions aligned with truth speak louder than any fabricated story. Words, when divorced from authenticity, implode on themselves. Chosen one, you witness the spectacle. The more they speak, the less they are understood. The more they defend, the more exposed they become. Their theater of noise is not powerful, it is collapsing, scene by scene, word by word. And you, standing apart in your quiet authority, are the only audience truly watching the pattern unfold without distortion. Every empire of control eventually succumbs to fatigue. Every fortress of manipulation, every tightly wound scheme, every attempt to orchestrate outcomes beyond their comprehension carries the seed of its own undoing. Exhaustion is impartial. It does not negotiate. It does not plead. It simply arrives. And when it does, the tightly coiled threads of their strategy begin to unravel, revealing gaps, cracks, and truths that were hidden only by relentless effort and obsessive vigilance. Chosen one. Notice how release emerges not from your force, but from the universe's impartial orchestration. You do not push, you do not interfere. The sheer weight of misaligned energy does the work for you. The systems they built to constrain, to suppress, to dominate, they cannot maintain themselves. Exhaustion unbinds what was falsely tethered, loosening the grip of deception and forcing transparency into the light. Even their most intricate defenses, when stripped of sustained energy, collapse into irrelevance. This release is often mistaken for coincidence or luck by those who fail to perceive the spiritual currents at play. But it is neither. Exhaustion is a vector, a force of natural correction. Every sleepless night, every frantic explanation, every mental ledger attempting to account for impossibilities contributes to the unbinding. The more they struggle to control what cannot be controlled, the faster their bonds dissolve. And from this dissolution, clarity emerges not just for you, but for all who are attuned to truth. In the quiet aftermath, you notice patterns previously invisible. Timelines stretch into coherence. Relationships recalibrate without intervention. Opportunities align almost effortlessly. The air itself feels lighter around you, charged with possibility instead of tension. Where they once dictated terms with frantic hands, the world now unfolds in ways aligned with purpose, not panic. Their collapse is a mirror for your emergence. Where chaos reigned, order quietly asserts itself through the principle of aligned energy. Exhaustion teaches them lessons that force and argument never could. It exposes the impossibility of sustaining falsehood, of maintaining performance without authenticity. It reveals the futility of resisting the flow of life when that flow carries justice, correction, and revelation. They may never fully comprehend what has happened. Their comprehension is irrelevant. The unbinding occurs regardless of recognition, silently and indisputably. And for you, chosen one, the lesson is deeper still. Observe without interference. Witness without attachment. Recognize the divine architecture at work, the way every misaligned effort unravels precisely when alignment is required for your ascent. Exhaustion unbinds them so that liberation can arise for you. Their fall is not the point. Your emergence is. Every tense moment, every struggle, every miscalculation they endured becomes the invisible hand guiding the narrative toward truth. Let the release happen. Do not fear the void created by their collapse. Do not fill it with anxiety or impulse. The unbinding is a conduit, not a vacuum. Energy that was previously trapped in patterns of control, manipulation, or overextension now moves freely, cascading toward manifestation, clarity, and justice. What was bound by exertion and insistence is now liberated by absence. And in that liberation, the world tilts subtly, inevitably, toward alignment. The quiet is not emptiness, it is preparation. The void is not absence, it is potential. The unbinding, born from exhaustion, does not simply free them, it frees reality itself, clearing the stage for you to act, to witness, and to rise without obstruction. In the digital expanse, echoes of the past often reappear with eerie precision. Ghost accounts, dormant profiles, abandoned threads, they all rise again, attempting to replay narratives they no longer control. Every message left behind, every forgotten post, every typed declaration of authority or defiance returns as hollow evidence, vibrating with unintended meaning. The energy behind it is depleted, but the impact lingers, not on you, chosen one, but on those who created it, binding them to the remnants of their own overreach. These shadows, when examined, reveal the architecture of desperation. They are the digital footprints of a strategy that failed to account for the inexorable truth energy follows essence. Hollow messages cannot sustain falsehood indefinitely, and ghost accounts cannot contain the weight of reality they were meant to manipulate. Each return, each ping, each automated echo becomes an involuntary confession, a mirror reflecting their own misalignment back to them. You need not engage. You need not respond. Your presence alone magnifies the futility embedded in their electronic attempts. Notice how the hollow forms of their digital selves behave differently than intended. Text that was supposed to intimidate feels empty. Posts meant to distract appear conspicuous. Patterns emerge, repetitions of phrase and gesture that betray anxiety and overcompensation. The universe conspires quietly, amplifying the disparity between intention and effect. Their creation, once designed to contain, now loops endlessly, exposing them instead of concealing. Every ghost account, every automated response, every trace of digital life they attempted to weaponize becomes a trap in its own right, ensnaring the originator in cycles of irrelevance and exposure. And you, chosen one, observe without friction. This is not your battlefield to fight in, but a theater of their own undoing. By remaining unengaged, by refusing to validate their manufactured energy, you allow the natural law of reflection to operate. Their attempts to reach you become exercises in futility, their messages ricocheting against the stillness you inhabit. In the absence of your reaction, the digital shadows do not dissipate. They amplify their own truth, revealing misalignments and intentions that were never hidden from the universe. Ghosts in the digital space are not just remnants of human overreach, they are markers for your ascent. Each hollow echo, each failed interaction, signals a pathway where misused energy has been redirected. Where they once attempted to impose control, the system now exposes their vulnerability. Their digital footprint becomes a cartography of their miscalculation, and your clarity becomes the lens through which it is inevitably interpreted. What was intended to harm becomes a signal of triumph, a reflection of justice silently administered. In these shadows, you also witness a crucial paradox: presence without engagement holds power beyond articulation. The emptiness they produce becomes fertile ground for manifestation. Where they sought chaos, alignment emerges. Where they sought distraction, focus crystallizes. The ghostly return of messages, accounts, and alerts is not noise, it is confirmation of a principle they never understood. Energy cannot be stolen, only mirrored, and the mirror always returns what it receives, amplified and inescapable. Let the shadows move. Let the hollow messages reverberate. They are not yours to correct, manipulate, or answer. They exist solely to confirm the trajectory. You are already on a trajectory defined by stillness, discernment, and the unshakable authority of your alignment. In watching the echoes fail to bind you, the universe reveals the inevitability of truth. Nothing manufactured can persist against what is organically, divinely aligned. Even when the world moves in chaos around you, chosen one, your momentum remains unseen, untouched, yet inexorably active. Destiny does not require the clamor of validation, the noise of applause, or the frantic energy of those scrambling to keep pace. It moves quietly, steadily, like a river carving canyons through stone over eons, indifferent to attempts to block it, to manipulate it, or to overshadow it. While others exhaust themselves in spectacle and pretense, your crown of still momentum rests upon your head, invisible to the uninitiated, yet undeniable in its effect. Observe how they move in panic while your path unfolds naturally. Every attempt to intercept, to disrupt, to apply pressure meets nothing but air and the inevitability of alignment. They plan, they strategize, they manipulate timelines and systems, but destiny, the one flowing through you, bends only toward truth, toward manifestation, toward the fulfillment of what was written long before their interference. Their exhaustion becomes the echo of their failure. Your stillness becomes the engine of your forward motion. You are the axis around which inevitability spins, and nothing forged by desperation can impede it. This is the paradox of your power. Action without motion is more potent than motion without alignment. While they expend energy trying to move mountains, you move them effortlessly by inhabiting the precise vibration of what must come to pass. The universe conspires in ways they cannot perceive, orchestrating circumstances, meetings, revelations, and opportunities, all while you maintain the discipline of stillness. Each silent decision, each pause held with integrity, compounds unseen advantages. Your momentum is self-sustaining, accelerated not by struggle, but by fidelity to the path that was always yours. And then comes the spectacle. The external world recognizes it in increments. Others see fragments, a door opening at the perfect moment, a timing that defies logic, a sequence of events that seems impossible. They attribute it to luck, coincidence, or error, but they cannot trace the quiet force at work, the crown resting lightly on your head, the divine alignment steering what appears to be random into inevitable victory. Their attempts to interfere, to recalibrate, or to catch up only highlight the contrast between their frantic energy and your composed authority. Even the most powerful forces aligned against you